Join me as we go exploring the world of Pokemon. Today's topic, the dopey Pokemon, Slowpoke. In the Pokemon world, there are many oddballs, and as you couldn't tell, as its scientific name would suggest, Slowpoke isn't known for being the sharpest tool in the shed. But Slowpoke and its regional variants are no slackers when it comes to being unique. As first, we venture to Kanto, where the earliest research on Slowpoke can be found. As many accounts have these pink slackers lounging on the shores near water. With its dex entry reading, incredibly slow and dopey, it takes 5 seconds for it to feel pain when under attack. As Slowpoke is known for, well, not really doing anything at all, being a lounger. The most surprising thing about Slowpoke, though, is that it's actually a psychic and water type, making it a rather peculiar Pokemon when comparing it to Kanto's other species. Another shocking revelation is that Slowpoke is an opportunity hunter, as another dex entry reads as follows: it catches prey by dipping its tail in water at the side of a river, but it often forgets what it is doing and spends entire days just loafing at water's edge. With this phenomenon being observed as rows of Slowpoke can be seen with the tails in the water and a dopey expression adorning their faces as they casually wait for something to bite on or just to enjoy themselves. This unique method of catching prey actually does work to their favor, and has many advantages even as they have a very peculiar bait. As a sweet sap leaks from its tail's tip, although not nutritious, the tail is pleasant to chew on. Just as many fishermen use bait on the end of their fishing rods, Slowpoke has a bait on the end of its tail, and essentially like a bobber, once the tail goes in further down, it knows something's biting. Whether or not it pulls it up is completely on its feelings. By practicing this method and having a very slow metabolism, Slowpoke has been able to be successful in various regions. To the shock of many, this Pokemon does evolve, and unbelievably, it's triggered by an unlikely source. The fact that Slowpoke could even muster an evolution was a shock to many researchers, as Slowpoke isn't a Pokemon that's keen on combat and rarely ever fights if it has to. But when something was seen lumbering around groups of Slowpoke, it was clear, as it was very distinguishing in its looks and was dragging something very strange behind it. But nonetheless, this was Slowbro. As this dex entry explains, one of the more unique symbioses of the Pokemon world, and it's probably not seen anywhere else, as an attached Shellder won't let go because of the tasty flavor that oozes out of its tail. When first seen, researchers were surprised, as many believed that this was just a simple situation of a Slowpoke catching prey. However, when an evolution decided to take place, they were shocked as Slowpoke reared up on its hind legs and became bipedal, and Shellder underwent a change itself. It seemed that both Shellder and Slowpoke go under a pseudo-evolution, as obviously Slowpoke loses its quadrupedalism as the Shellder now forms onto its tail, making it impossible for it to walk on all fours without dragging that massive tail, and Shellder becomes a more defensive version of what it would be, growing spikes and protecting both it and Slowpoke from behind. Also, with its constant biting, Slowbro is forced to work harder in order to take care of both it and Shellder, as Shellder clearly makes it obvious to Slowpoke, or Slowbro, that it needs to get food for both of them. But one of the most fascinating things about this is that Slowbro can actually revert back into Slowpoke, as if the tail-biting Shellder is thrown off in a harsh battle, it reverts to being an ordinary Slowpoke. As this phenomenon has been observed a few times, it's rather shocking. But with groups of Slowbro and Slowpoke found in many regions, we know that this is a common occurrence among the species. Both are a reminder that the unlikely can be very unusual, and a little bit of effort sometimes comes from the most unlikely of places. But Slowpoke can get even more unusual, and its power can amplify to the limits of other Pokemon seen around the world. And this can only be experienced by trainers who form a deep bond with their Slowbro. When Slowbro holds the Slowbronite and a trainer a keystone, Slowbro can undergo the Mega Evolution phenomenon and become Mega Slowbro. When comparing Mega Slowbro to the prior forms, it's amazing. A Shelder takes up the majority of the transformation, in this case becoming the armor for an already somewhat protected Slowbro, but now becoming effectively a suit of armor, as Slowpoke remains virtually unchanged. This power is still very amazing, and has shown to have some distinguishing characteristics in battle, as effectively is meant to raise the defenses of the Slowpoke to the absolute limit by allowing Shelder to take most of the brunt of damage, as Slowpoke basically just stays there and does what it can. But this power is amazing and makes Slowbro an interesting pick for trainers. And for those who simply love this Pokemon line, they can take it to the upper echelons of training and be competitive. Obviously, guys, we don't have ads here, but this is for you to take a quick break if you need, because there's the other half of the video coming up, and also just to thank you guys for making it this far. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. For some time, Slowbro was believed to be the only evolution to Slowpoke, but to find the next evolution, we ventured to Johto, and a unique topic of conversation. While somewhat controversial to some, Slowpoke itself is sought after for its tail. To better explain this, a Dex entry explains that Alolan home cooking involves drying Slowpoke tails and then simmering them into a salty stew. As various regions actually consume Slowpoke tails, as well, Slowpoke tails is used in many cuisines around the world. Slowpoke tail is actually considered a delicacy to many, as although their tails, which fall off naturally, can easily be found lying around, they're a precious ingredient for cooking. And, well, unfortunately for Slowpoke, this means that there are obviously those who are impatient and can't wait to find the naturally somewhat abundant resource. As we visit the Slowpoke well found in Azalea Town in the Johto region, where some time ago, an incident saw a criminal organization forcibly remove the tails of Slowpoke, causing them to have horrible discomfort for some time. Although this seems horrible, there is hope. First observed in the Johto region, tailless Slowpokes watched at the side of the water, as now they had to figure out how they would catch prey without the use of their tails. As it seems, the loss of tail could end up forcing them to have hunger, and when these Slowpokes got hungry, unfortunately, it forced them to do something they hate doing, thinking. As one Slowpoke was seen actually observing and watching, as it would see a Shelder come closer and closer to shore, staring at something on a rock. This peculiar item that was sticking out on a rock was a King's Rock, something found somewhat abundantly in the Johto region and other regions around the world. As the Shelder got closer, it eventually lunged out of the water, attempting to attack and eat the rock. But considering this was a rock, it eventually let go and fell back into the water. Seeing this as an opportunity, the first Slowpoke observed doing this approached the rock. When the Slowpoke first approached and finally made it to the rock, it first attempted to eat it, believing it must have been some type of food, but obviously it failed. Then as it messed with it, it placed it on its head. When out of nowhere, a Shelder lunged at it, with the Shelder firmly biting down on its head in the rock, a strange light filled the area, and when it disappeared, something amazing happened, as Slowking was here. Slowking is unlike any of its evolution line, as its dex entry reads, every time it yawns, Shelter injects more poison into it. The poison makes it more intelligent. This has allowed Slowking to have an almost unrivaled intelligence. Some even say that some Slowking have even been able to speak human languages. This Pokemon is so famed for its intelligence or intellect that a proverb still persists in some regions. When in doubt, ask Slowking. Also, as its name refers, this Pokemon is treated like a king among its species. It is not uncommon to see a Slowking leading many Slowbro and Slowpoke. In the places where all three can be found, they thrive and work together for survival and show the power of Slow, and they show it in a well-deserved manner. Hey guys, this is the part of the video where I'm obviously going to ask you to remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We are on the race to 250 subs, and I would be glad to have you with me, and I'd appreciate it. So, without further ado, I don't want to take up too much time. It's time to jump back into the video, as we still have the letter portion. So, let's get to it. For the last portion of the video, we've ventured to Galar, more specifically, the Isle of Armor, where we find Galarian Slowpoke. When side by side, both Slowpoke don't have too many differences, but the dex entry for Galarian Slowpoke shines an interesting light on this very unique regional variant Pokemon. Because Galarian Slowpoke eat the seeds of a plant that grows only in Galar, their tails have developed a spicy flavor. Due to this diet, we also have a very interesting perspective on how Galarian Slowpoke specifically lives their lives. As believe it or not, Galarian Slowpoke, although being found near water and actually does swim, is not actually a water type. In fact, it is actually a pure psychic type. This is most likely hypothesized from the fact that because its diet is mainly sourced on the resources of the Galariaceae tree and its seeds, this means that Slowpoke, at least Galarian and Galar, have learned to depend mostly on land for their resources of food instead of preying on creatures from the water opportunistically. This also represents in the colors that show up on its tail and its forehead, which is believed to be caused by the Galariacea's spices actually building up in areas around the body and being exuded in areas where Slowpoke normally would be able to exude some of these chemicals naturally, being its head and its tail. Also, it becoming a pure psychic type may actually stand from a behavior that Galarian Slowpoke does exude that actually does differentiate it a lot from its counterparts around the world. As, although this Pokemon is normally zoned out, its expression abruptly sharpens on occasion. The cause for this seems to lie in Slowpoke's diet, effectively being that the Galariaceae seeds and its spice may have some type of ability to cause Slowpoke to have these sporadic bursts of knowledge, so maybe boost its metabolism, as obviously seeds and type of foods like that are more natural can contain some nutrients that are more helpful for developing brain growth in certain species. As it isn't uncommon to see many Galarian Slowpoke consuming the Galariaceae seeds, where it causes Slowpoke to change, obviously having their yellow protrusion from their colors on their head, and in the case of those that have different color variants, it forms in a blackish coloration on the tail and the head. And this actually also culminates in both of its evolutions, as yes, both of the counterpart evolutions in Slowbro and Slowking have their own Galar variants. But unlike their counterparts around the world, or to some extent in the case of Slowking, both utilize unique items, tied interestingly enough to the food that causes their forms to change in Slowpoke. These being in the form of the Galarian Cuff for Slowbro and the Galarian Wreath for Slowking. as with the Galarian cuff, allowing a Galarian Slowpoke to evolve when a Shelder bites down on its hand while wearing the cuff, with Galarian Slowbro being actually a dual Psychic and Poison type, as one of the deck's entry reads and explains this unique phenomenon. If this Pokemon squeezes the tongue of the Shelder biting it, the Shelder will launch a toxic liquid from the tip of its shell. This being clearly seen in his signature move known as Shell Sidearm. As Galarian Slowpoke, that becomes Galarian Slowbro, tends to seem to have a slightly more aggressive demeanor, where it's more ready to battle compared to its variant around the world, and uses its poison typing to its advantage, delivering blows from distances and allowing its psychic abilities to use at a given time. Distinctly in nature, it makes Galarian Slowbro a menace to face and a difficult Pokemon to bring down. As we segue over to Galarian Slowking, it is very different compared to its counterpart, in that a combination of toxins and the shock of evolving has increased Shelder's intelligence to the point that Shelder now controls Slowking. As the Shelder takes the reins of this evolution and unlocks a further power, as this can be seen in his signature move known as Eerie Spell, that can even disable enemy Pokemon's moves after being hit with it. As the Galarian Slowking is no slouch to battle, but also is very terrifying, as with the Shelder leading the command, it's now the one calling all the shots, not needing to influence Slowpoke anymore. As these Pokemon living in communities like their counterparts across the globe, the Galar variants seem to be more active. Obviously, this is due to their diet. And although living very far apart from their counterparts, groups of them have both been seen, and evil lines have actually been met in a very interesting situation, as these jam sessions, as they're called, have been observed and has shown the unique culture that both Slowpoke groups and its evolutions enjoy. As both groups have seemed to interact in harmony and with both Pokemon in the world, it's a very interesting place to see. This has been What's Up with Slowpoke. And as always, this is Brad from the Ad Army signing off. And for all of you out there, to sign on.